We are beautifully,
Welcome to the Beautifully Melanated podcast on Lightning Radio. Thank you so much, Paddy. I am one of your hosts, Sarah. Thank you, Lightning Radio. And I'm here with my co-hosts.
Hi, I'm Kay. Glad to be back another week. Welcome, welcome. Hope you've tuned in, everyone. We have a great show for you.
Hi, and I'm Karen. And so we're going to jump straight into it. So my What in the World topic this week has been taken from the Guardian newspaper. They wrote an article about Black people who were labelled backward as children seek justice for lifelong trauma, the article says. It says a group brought up in the 1960s and 70s want redress for educationally subnormal labelling applied disproportionately to Black children. It goes on to say that Black people were wrongly labelled educationally subnormal as children in the UK before being sent to special schools. And so they have launched a campaign demanding an apology and compensation from the government. They say their lives have been ruined by their early experiences during the 1960s and 70s, and they were told that they were backward or slow or a dunce, and placed in schools with no curriculum, no exams, and no qualifications. The consequences have lasted a lifetime, they say, blighting their confidence, self-esteem, and life chances. Some of their stories were highlighted in a BBC documentary called Subnormal, A British Scandal. And since then, more victims have come forward to share their experiences, and they are working with lawyers to try to secure compensation for negligence and post-traumatic stress. So the documentary described how from 1945, children thought to have limited intellectual ability were described by a new term, educationally subnormal. Now, the reason why this struck a chord for me was because I was brought up, so were my siblings, around this sort of time, showing my age there. And I remember my brother talking about the fact that at his careers meeting, they suggested things like, why don't you go and be a mechanic? And there's nothing wrong with being a mechanic, don't get me wrong. That would have been quite a lucrative, career path. However, they didn't really offer him lots of choice. He felt that his choices were very limited. He felt that they kind of wanted to shoehorn him into a box, really, and that he wasn't given the same sort of opportunities as his white counterparts. And this is the conversation we had quite recently. So this particularly struck a chord with me. And, these people have gone on to say that it's actually, limited their life chances. That's huge.
Of course.
It's had such an impact on their ability to earn or thrive in society. So if you have any thoughts on this subject, please telephone us or you can send us a text on 07598 160 730. I'll tell you the number again. It's 07598 160 730. So please send us a text if you'd like to comment about this or if you'd like to share your experience. What do you think, ladies, about that article?
I'll let Kay go first. Well, I know she's bursting.
I remember our second podcast episode. We talked about what a Black person sounds like.
Oh, yes.
And
yes.
Karen,
Want to revisit that
you
one?
referred to the study that said that Black people are less intelligent.
That's right.
Which I did find a few episodes after. But this would be what they're basing their data on. You've put children in a special provision that has no curriculum. So how on earth are they supposed to learn? What are they learning, in fact, if there is no curriculum there? And how did they determine that they had special educational needs? For some of them, the article was saying, Sarah, is because they had a strong Jamaican accent, for instance. Or some may have been dyslexic. Or I don't know, but it clearly was disadvantaging children from the Windrush generation I'm fuming, actually, what they've done to them.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's a setup. It is set up.
Quite a
isn't it?
setup.
Totally, yes. It's horrible. Really horrible. I don't really understand. I don't understand why people would also kind of listen to this, kind of read into this as well. I mean, it's ignorance to think that. But then I don't know exactly when the article was published either. So,
and I'd love to know how much they're suing for, because this impacted their whole life, their self-esteem, their confidence, their ability to earn. So, I would love to know how much they are asking for. In terms of compensation, I would probably be asking for somewhere in the region of maybe £100,000, not dollars. Now, I don't know if they would get that, but there is literally no scientific evidence to say that Black people are less intelligent. In fact, someone sent me today, quite randomly, didn't know we were going to talk about this tonight, what do you call it? Like a voice clip of the discussion of international research into DNA strands, and found that Black people were the group that were most likely to have geniuses. And this we know because we are intelligent, we are innovative, we're inventive, we set trends. We do so much, and yet the idea that we are possibly less than because back in the 60s, some teachers thought, I don't want to teach them, or I don't understand them, or I don't feel like they deserve the same as their white counterparts in terms of educational support. And so decided to put children in special needs education provision, which clearly there was nothing special about it or educational, as the article now suggests. So I'm angry for them. I do hope they get a really fat compensation. I would want about 100 grand compensation. I don't know how much they're asking for, but
no,
I would want
I think
at
it's
least 100.
almost priceless, isn't it? How much compensation you would actually need. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Scarring people for life.
Yeah.
Really setting people up and making people feel like they're going to fail. And I'm trying to think who believes this stuff, because if you're looking at doctors, lots of doctors, if you're looking at scientists, professionals, a lot of those are Black people. So I don't really understand, like what we were saying before, and it was yourself, Kay, wasn't it? That shows a video of a man as well. That the one, the
DNA that we are likely to have the most geniuses.
That is right. Yeah. So there's two opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
When you would look at doctors, scientists, professionals, they're often are Black. So what's that about? It's dunce backward.
Yeah. I mean, we back it up with the pyramids.
Of course. Yes.
Yeah. I dare anyone to say that didn't belong to Black people. We are inventors. I said it before. We're architects. We're innovators. We're trendsetters. I will not have it. And to put them in a provision and then don't provide an education, that was spiteful and cruel.
Definitely.
How ridiculous.
I wonder what it was based on. So were they people who had additional needs? Were they people who had perhaps behavioural difficulties? Were they people who had none of the above and yet, for some reason, were just labelled as subnormal? I don't know. I think I need to do a bit more digging.
Subnormal. To me, that's just disgusting.
I mean, it's disgusting anyway, but I'm just wondering what the context, was there any context?
What the hell is not subnormal? That is like a slug or something. Even a slug isn't subnormal. It's a normal slug, I've never heard anything to describe a human like that.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And it's so, like you say, it's so cruel because it has just affected them so negatively. But
it's abusive, actually.
It is abusive. And subsequently, they've not been able to perhaps get the kind of, jobs that they would have needed to. I mean, this provision had no curriculum. What were they doing?
What were they doing
exactly? Day in, day out.
And also, I think to myself, what did the parents do? Now, this is where it becomes interesting for me, because I think a lot of parents back then didn't really challenge school. I think they trusted teachers. I think they trusted the educational setting that they would, advocate for their children, and that they would, send your kid to school. You assume they're going to learn, don't you?
Yes.
And I just wonder you know, what part the parents played in this. Did they question the school and say, you know, what is my child learning today then?
I mean, some parents definitely probably would have, but they'd have got absolutely nowhere, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
Which
they
is
would
just
have.
horrific.
That's true. Where would they have gone with
Yeah.
that? The article does say when some parents realized what was going on, they did challenge it. But, for instance, this young man, he had sickle cell disease. And so he was put in a special provision. How do those two
go
link
together?
up?
Okay, so that's kind of answer my question then. So
Yeah.
the fact is they didn't have learning difficulties. He had a medical condition.
He had a medical condition.
And because of that, he was labelled as subnormal. I mean, that is just insane.
His parents were told there was a place for him at a special school, a state boarding school, where a matron could keep an eye on his health. It turned out to be what was known at the time as an ESM school. He suffered racist abuse and had little formal academic education.
Oh, dear.
No exams. He couldn't punctuate. He couldn't spell. He couldn't read. And then spent a lifetime trying to catch up.
And it also says in the article, it says the most damaging thing about being in a special school is the lack of self-belief and confidence. Because you can imagine how that would erode your self-confidence. It would erode, you know,
your sense of self.
Yeah,
who you think you are.
Who you are.
Yeah.
And what you're capable of and what you can achieve.
You just feel like you are nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
So one of the claimants, Anne-Marie Simpson, who came to England from Jamaica at the age of 9, after little formal education, she also ended up in a special needs school after being excluded from mainstream school for getting into fights. I recall having an assessment by a psychologist, and my mom was advised I needed special education, but I don't know what my special needs were.
Wow. That is, you know, that's shocking.
And she said, again, no curriculum. She never sat an exam. She says, at the time, I was very, very embarrassed. I would not tell anyone where I went to school.
Wow. And someone by the name of Gordon says it was soul destroying. He said all the things he could have learned but didn't because there was no curriculum and no exams, as I said. He says he spent a lifetime trying to catch up, completing a range of qualifications, including a degree in information systems, and he's now got a PGCE. He's also written a children's book, but he says the stigma remains.
Of course it would.
Yeah, and that's the problem, isn't it?
That is the problem.
That's why the compensation money, it's come too late, hasn't it, as well?
Yeah, they're adults now.
They're adults now. I mean, had they had compensation when they were like 10 or 11, it could have been ploughed into therapy for them to try and build a sense of self.
Sure.
Now, sure, they can have therapy, but I mean, will it do any good at this point? I feel like damage may have been done, a lot of it by now.
Of course. The article further says, Karen, you were talking about how children get this. The criteria is quite arbitrary and hate-based. There's no other way to put it. In some cases, children ended up there because they had a strong Jamaican accent.
Oh, my God.
Oh, that's shocking. Oh, that's shocking.
Ridiculous.
Or because teachers thought the best way to keep them under control. What are you controlling? Are they animals?
Well, I assume they think yes.
Others underwent an IQ test that was culturally biased and included questions they could not possibly answer because of their different experiences, but it was put down incorrectly to low IQ. My God.
Wow. That is shocking, isn't it?
Empire 2.0.
That's on another level.
Wow. This is just hate-based. There's no other way to say it.
Yeah, there's no justification. Not that there could be, but I mean, I'm actually quite shocked.
Yeah. Well, I remember when my son was in year 2, already showing quite significant sporting talents. And the teacher told me he's not going to pass his SATs. And I had to have words. Of course, he passed. They scored the highest score for all categories. Again, it comes to the 11 plus, and they're coming to make the same nonsense argument. They weren't going to the white parents. But they're coming to me about his capabilities. I know how bright my son was. So, of course, he excelled and he passed 11 plus. But why was that even a conversation you thought to have with me? Because he was sporty. So they thought, well, put him in sports. You don't need to be educated.
And I do find that I think lots of children of colour have experienced that, haven't they? Been put into sports because they are sports, which is great.
Yeah.
But not at the expense of sort of academic attainment, you know? And I think that's something that like I say, has happened. Wow. So yeah, lots to say about that. Like I say, if you'd like to text in, please do on 07598 160730. You are tuned in to Beautifully Melanated Podcast on Lightning FM.
Great. So, ladies, we continue our relationship theme. This week, we are focusing on parental relationships. Again, something we covered, actually, our pilot episode was about parenting and being parented. So this week, you're not going to hear a lot of our experiences because episode 1 is there if you want to catch up. This week, we're focusing on the experiences of some of our friends in our network who have kindly anonymously sent in letters of their experiences of being parented. And we're going to share them with you and discuss one by one. We may not get through all the letters tonight, but if you do have a contribution, we'd love to hear from you. Head over to our Instagram page. Our telephone number is now up there as well. And interact with us. We'd love to hear from you. So I'm going to start with the first letter. I am from the age group 65 plus. This is a female voice. I had a wonderful relationship with my parents. They left us with our granny for nearly 3 years when they came to England. But we had always lived with her, so that was no problem. We respected all adults and would never be rude to them. We used to get beaten, but never thought much of it as we had done something wrong. And even to this day, for us, we see nothing wrong with it, as they never went over the top with us, as I know many other parents did. We still felt loved by them, but now we know that the harsh abuse was as a result of the punishments meted out during slavery and repeated throughout generations until we found a different way to control our anger. We came from a Christian home, so never saw them argue, curse, smoke, or drink. We could go into the front room, which only housed the ornaments in the cabinet and the gram. Oh, I remember, that.
those very well.
Glass, weren't they?
Yeah.
Glass. I've got one upstairs, actually. Yeah, it's a little duck.
And
I've always put it on quite a place.
oh my goodness.
Even now.
And plastic on the furniture. Oh my
Oh, and
gosh.
doilies on the
And
back of the
doilies.
chair.
Bloody doilies, man. They're constantly trying to straighten them. Before Granny comes back, quick, straighten them.
Yeah.
You know?
Relatable. Dad was a very forgiving man, loved and respected by us and the adults who had nothing but good to say about him, and they were not looking at him through rose-tinted glasses. He always saw the best in people and would not tolerate gossip. I learned a lot from his attitude to us and to people. My mom was warm, resourceful, and strong, and a fighter for her family. She loved us. So, and again, I can say we learned a lot from her too. Growing up in England in the 60s or early 70s, our parents did not get involved in our school lives as they had enough to deal with. So we just got on with it. Now, this kind of ties in with the what's in the world.
Yeah, it does.
You've come over on the Windrush, you're adjusting to your new life. Yeah, as she said, they just had to get on with it.
That's
Whereas
right.
me, I'm up to school every look, just annoy me and I'm there.
Yeah. But I think it's different for us though, isn't it?
Different times.
It's a different time. And I know that I could never leave my children's education to the
Just
school.
a teacher.
I wouldn't do that because I know, I've worked in education and I've worked in mental health for a long time, and I know that wouldn't be wise. And I know that you have to take a more collaborative approach, but I don't think my parents knew that.
Right.
I know that my parents were firefighting and they came here, they worked really hard, they did their best. But like I say, they entrusted my well-being and my education with the school.
Right.
I know they did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was only when we were older that they really learned, before that, when they got to realize that this country was not fair to us at school or indeed the police, they were very supportive of us. It was only when we were and they were older that we really learned about who they were, i.e. their life stories, injustices, etc. And it was fascinating. It taught us how important it is to talk about theirs and our grandparents' history. They were wonderful parents and people and became great grandparents to other family and friends' children too. Okay, so that's our first lesson. Really positive.
Very.
Even to acknowledge that beating wasn't really appropriate, but at least they didn't get it as bad as some. I mean, I've seen some horrific beatings when I was growing up. Definitely legacy of slavery. So, older age group?
Yeah, and I also think that for a certain group of people, physical punishment was just a done thing, wasn't it? And actually, interestingly, I think this person said, we thought it was our fault. We'd done something wrong.
Yeah.
And they've explained it away like that. I think now we wouldn't really advocate physical punishment. I would always suggest other methods because I believe often it can be ineffective. And not just that, I think that there are lots of other ways. And I know that now. But I guess it's a generational thing, isn't it? Back then, there was less talking.
Well, speaking of the Christian tradition, one of the most quoted scripture to justify the beatings, spare the rod, spoil the child. So they even had God on their side saying, go beat them. Yeah, so that was our first letter. Any contributions, ladies, before we move on?
Well, I kind of echo what that person said. I see that that sort of way of thinking was very, very common. Particularly this person's of a certain age, aren't they?
Yes.
So 65 plus, so.
They are. And I also think it's quite, the way it's written is quite respectful, actually. Everything, the way it's written is quite respectful of their parents. It's quite calmly written.
I think they had a happy childhood. It sounds as if they had they come from a loving home.
Yeah.
And the thing is, so look, physical punishment was not uncommon, right?
I used to get a slap occasionally, and I was obviously in a white family.
Yeah, so it's not even necessarily.
No, I was slapped on the thigh, on the bum.
Yeah.
Upstairs, go to bedroom, your bedroom. Yeah. Stay in your bedroom until you've calmed down.
I think
and off I trotted, There's only one time my dad lost it, but even then it was like dragged up to the bedroom, thrown in your bedroom with a smacked ass kind of thing. That was it.
Yeah.
The thing is, I also think that there's a difference between physical punishment for discipline and physical punishment when parents are frustrated and taking out their frustration
That's a
on
real
their children.
problem when people do that.
Yeah, and they are different things.
Yeah, that's right.
And although I don't advocate either, they are different. And I think people don't realise that. Because I had a conversation with a work colleague and they were saying, how could you ever hit your child? And I said, no, sometimes it is out of discipline. It's not necessarily abuse. It seems abusive to us now, but when you are disciplining your child, that is and was a form of punishment.
It was,
and it's actually
across the board.
And it's actually not illegal in this country, but there are stipulations to it. You can't leave a mark and you can't use an implement, basically.
Oh, that cuts out the go cut your own switch generation.
Yes, it does. That cuts that out.
And the belt and whatever else.
Even at school, my dad would tell me at school he used to get the cane. He used to have to go in the front of the class.
Yeah.
And the teacher would pull down his shorts and he would be caned in front of everybody. So I always got the cane. He was always naughty. And he always used to get the cane.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just like, and when he was really naughty, they made him scrub like an old swimming pool with a toothbrush.
Wow.
Oh, dear God.
Yeah.
So keep going. Can you imagine that?
I don't know.
Now?
No, I really
can't.
No, I really can't.
I really can't.
Yeah. Still scrubbing. Yeah. So,
that's a lot. I mean, the thing is, caning, the thing about caning that struck me was that, these children were labelled subnormal.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if they could still be caned? I don't know if it would just be so subjective, wouldn't it? Because there might just be a teacher who doesn't like a particular child, and boy, would that kid get it.
I'm sure that happens.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
Happened.
I'm sure it did.
Because the teacher had a power trip, didn't they? And would try and cane them constantly. Some sadomasochistic.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go on to read the next one. I don't know how many generations it takes to break the cycle of poor relationships, in particular between mother and daughter. I was going to say dysfunctional, but my mother and I function. I'm not just the daughter she would like, and she's not the mother I need. I love my mum to the moon and back, and she would step over hot coals for me. But her yin-yang, passive-aggressive need for control didn't and still doesn't work well with me and my sensitive soul. I think I was 30 before she told me she loved me, and 50 before I realised that she wanted her kids to be happy. Of course, she just didn't know how to express it. I tell my children I love them most days and hug them too tight, and they know and do approach me any time. They also pull me up if I speak in that controlling manner, which both shames and surprises me. But little by little, generation by generation, we are changing and improving.
Wow.
That's interesting,
Different, isn't it? Yeah.
There's a lot in that, actually. I almost want to sit down for a minute with it. I do resonate with the line when she says, I'm not the daughter my mother wanted. I am currently not the daughter my mum wants because I'm no longer a Christian, and she cannot reconcile with that.
She finds it really difficult.
Difficult is a mild word.
Does she feel, though, that you won't be saved and therefore you won't go on to eternal?
I'm lost in her eyes, and it distresses her greatly. And she wonders where she went wrong because she raised us in the church. Well, that's where you went wrong. But I can't have that conversation with her, even to say, Christianity wasn't for me. If I had a choice, I wouldn't have chosen Christianity. But yeah, I'm definitely not the daughter she wants at the moment. And it's tough.
That's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really, really hard.
I guess, though, isn't she at an age where this is not going to change, is it, in her lifetime?
Oh, no.
You're not going to suddenly morph into a good Bible girl.
I'm a good girl, but I'm not a Bible girl.
No. But that isn't ever going to happen. Like, we have to accept our parents' faults now. At this point, I have to accept my parents are not going to change. So I don't think they expect me to change it. That's just me, you know. They've accepted it. And if they don't like it, they could have done a lot worse. I mean, funny, but, you know. So your mum should be, proud of you, Kay.
I agree. There's lots for her to be proud of, but for her, it's the scripture again. What does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul? So everything she comes from that perspective and from that framework.
Yeah.
So you can't have a conversation about spirituality that actually I'm not lost, and just because I'm not a Christian doesn't mean I'm not going to make it to heaven. In fact, I'll be there before you.
That's right.
But okay. But she can't hear that because I'm talking against the Bible.
Yeah, that's her perception, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's her belief.
Yeah.
And the Bible is everything.
The Bible is everything.
Right.
Indefatigable word of God. And so for her, nothing else matters.
Yeah, I understand that. And I'm just thinking about how it feels for her. She feels as if she can't save her daughter. I guess that's how she looks at it.
Yeah, which is why it distresses her so much. Yeah. But I don't need saving. I need loving.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But from her perspective.
Yeah. And as the author of this letter is saying, she was 30.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Before she heard her mum say, I love you. Wow.
That is a shocker. I think I told my daughter I loved her the day that she was born.
Yeah.
And I've told her pretty much almost every single day of her entire life. And she'll tell me she loves me pretty much every single day of her life. So it's kind of like we're so loving and talking about love to each other. But I can't imagine not telling her that. I don't understand that.
Yeah. But yet she would do anything for her, walk over hot coals for her. So the idea of love then, as a parent, you can show it, but you can't say it. But children need to hear that.
Children definitely
need to hear.
But the thing is, I think that's also something that we are aware of now. And I think that we were less aware of that then, if that makes sense. So, for example, I don't remember my dad ever telling me that he loved me, but I knew he loved me in his deeds, in his way, in his manner.
Good point. Yeah, my parents didn't. My parents didn't. And they still don't, actually. Yeah.
Really? See, my mum would openly tell me that she loved me. She would show it, but she also told me. But my dad, I think that was just the nature of him.
Yeah, sounds like my dad too.
Yeah. My dad, if I asked them, say, of course we love you. Of course we love you.
Yeah. It was taken.
Oh, yes.
It was a given, wasn't it?
Yeah. Not even now, I'd be like, yeah. It's just, I wouldn't even ask now. No.
And that's interesting. because it's not even this is not a race thing. This is just a
This
people
is across
thing.
the people thing,
Yeah.
across the board.
And I wonder if it is generational.
Yeah, I think it's generational. Well, we would tell our children we love them.
Yeah.
I think our parents. It'd be interesting to know for any listeners as well. What their parents would do. Would their parents?
How did they show love?
Yeah, listeners, I guess our age. How did their parents say "I love you"?
Yeah. Did they openly say?
Yeah. Did they openly say it? Oh, we know people showed it, but I'd be interested to know if people actually said it.
Yeah.
To to their listeners.
To their children.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Another familiar line is the passive-aggressive need for control. Can only speak for our community. Yes, there's a huge need for control. On the one hand, you're always a child. No matter how old you are, you still have to act like a child around them. But on the other hand, you're an adult and they expect adult things from you, i.e., I know there were some children who were born to be their parents' pension and care home. Let's face it. They expect to be looked after, which means you have to earn as an adult and support them as an adult. But then you also have to be a child as well. It's a really, really uncomfortable rub, because when you don't do what they want, then they're very quick to put you in a child position. But and even while opening the barrel that you sent, I mean, I don't send barrels, but
True.
That need for control, it's insane. All of the women in my friendship group struggle with mothers who feel the need to control them.
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, okay? Right, so when my eldest daughter was very little, we'd go to play group, mother and child toddler group, etc. And we'd see, I don't know, for want of a better name, little Alice. Alice would be wearing a summer top, sunglasses, welly boots, raincoat, skirt clearly too small, gloves, and a whole array. Like she just emptied her wardrobe and put it on.
Yeah, probably had. Yeah.
And I used to think I would never let my child leave the house like that. And she thought, Alice, this is the mother, right? I'm doing a terrible impression of her mum. Alice just wanted to wear all these things. You know how children can be. And I'd sit there and think, why don't you just tell Alice this is what you're wearing? If it bothers you. So in the mornings when my eldest would, get up and say, oh, mummy, can I wear this, this and this? And they weren't coordinated the way I thought.
Wow. Okay.
Coordinated,
No.
Okay.
I have a friend of mine said to me, your daughter looks like she just stepped out of a Next catalogue. Because, and that, I guess, was that a need for control. I just wanted my children to look neat and tidy. I like them. I like them looking neat and tidy.
But I think also this was time for free play and kind of let them wear.
But was that once you'd left the house? Was my, right? So, we're in the house. You can do what you like, dress up and you can play and fairy dresses and all those things that she had access to all of that, them all. But once we've left the house and we're actually on the road.
Okay, yeah, you want to look. The little ones, I think it's fine for little ones, like little ones, like 4-year-olds and stuff. I'd be happy for them to wear welly boots, fairy wings.
Oh, my daughter did.
That's so
she would wear a princess frock.
Yeah, why not?
And boots and wrestle her brother.
Enjoy that. Enjoy that time.
She had lace gloves. Oh my gosh, we look back at some of the pictures and she was like, Mom, why did you let me go out like that? I said, because you wanted to dress yourself.
But see, that's interesting. So what I'm saying is now, in hindsight, would it really have mattered if she'd had a whole array? But at the time, I said no. So was that a need for, what's difficult is knowing what things you need to control or what things you don't need to control, right?
Yeah,
and I think lots and lots of parents struggle with that. Equally, I would also say things like, you want your children to be independent, right? So let's just say you're late home from work, your daughter is about, I don't know, say they're 14 or something, you want them to be able to come in, stick something in the oven for themselves, sort themselves out, right?
Right.
So they are able to do that, but on in another breath, you might say, okay, come on, off your phone. I need you to do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
So we want them to be independent when it suits us.
Yeah.
And sometimes we need them to be a child and follow instructions when that suits us. And it's a tightrope walk.
It
right?
is.
It's a difficult balancing act. So sometimes my youngest daughter will say to me, if I've asked her to do something, she'll say, well, whose house is it? You're always telling me that you pay the mortgage, so you do it.
Wow. I'll be who pays the phone bill? You give me your phone right now. And guess what? You're not having it back. You are not having your phone back.
Back in the day, she would have made her parent a dentist because every teeth would have been.
She says it in jest. She says it in jest. She's joking.
No, I'm not
she
condoning
knows.
that. I think that's quite funny.
Yeah. So she says it in jest because she just winds me up, right?
Yeah.
But the point she's making is that it is when it suits us.
Yes.
Right?
So true.
It is so true. That's why she's very funny, right?
Yeah.
And she makes me laugh because, and I'll say to her, yes, it is my house, and yes, I do pay the mortgage, and therefore, but you still need to do this.
Yeah.
And she does it. But I'm just making the point, right?
Yeah.
So it's when it suits us. And that's the tricky thing about parenthood.
Yeah.
And parenting.
And the control, again, comes in with relationships for our teenagers. So on the one hand, we tell them they can't possibly date or even think about having relationships until they're finished their education.
That's right.
And then as soon as they're finished education, has no social skills, no relationship skills.
Absolutely.
And we're asking them, so when are you going to get married?
Exactly. 100, honestly.
Well, the girls, maybe I find it's the girls.
Yeah.
People with boys don't care. They go out and do what they want. The sons, I found it's not so
Oh,
tight.
I did care. I was
did
even
you?
more protective of him than her.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not, most people I know with sons will let them go out from like 15 and
No, not me.
sow their merry seed. But their daughter's like, no, she can't. There's no way
No
she's
way.
allowed to do that.
No, I didn't want him sewing anything.
Okay.
No.
Did he?
Yes. Much to my horror. But I did allow them to have a chance to experiment, falling in love, having their first crush. Something I wasn't allowed to do.
But the thing is, you can't stop someone having a crush because that's the way they feel, isn't it?
No, but you can try to put a lid on it.
You can't put a lid on it. If I've got a crush on someone, you've got a crush on them, haven't you?
Yeah, but you can limit what they can do about it. So having a crush in your bedroom on your own.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think I put a crush on Mark Owen from Take That. I mean, God, yuck. But like at the time, that was a crush. It was innocent. It was a poster on the wall.
Yeah. But I couldn't even say that to my parents.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You couldn't even speak it out loud.
Yeah.
Okay.
For lots of children, they wouldn't be able to share that.
There was nothing even sexual about it. It was just like, wow.
But for some people,
you know?
But for some people, it's an interest. You have an interest in boys?
Yes.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
a shocker, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then you're going to get pregnant because in their minds, there's only one trajectory.
Absolutely.
You have an interest in boys, you're going to have sex, and you're going to get pregnant as a teenager. Yeah. So therefore, cut that part of you off.
Yeah.
Which is not healthy, but that also was another huge control in terms of when you matured. And then, like I said, you mature, you finish your education, you finish university, and suddenly it's like, so when you get married.
But is that control or are you parenting? That's the thing. I'm wondering if that is control or are you just being a parent?
It's control because at university, most people, but they will be sleeping with other people. That is, as far as I'm aware, uni. You're not going to go, Mum said
my
I can't.
daughter's not.
The stories we tell ourselves.
I know very well about their son. They thought that about their son until now. It's so obvious he is not a virgin.
The stories you tell yourself to make yourself feel better.
There's no way.
My parents told the same thing.
I think it's different.
They thought I married pure.
I think it's different if someone decides that they don't want to at uni. That's fine. But I think, I haven't been to uni in that way. I was a day student.
Right.
But, I just don't understand. Surely at uni, from what I hear from students, it'll be so hard not to socialise and meet people in that way. You know, you're of age, you're having fun, you're all together, you're living away from home for the first time. Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't obedient. I still had the boyfriends and stuff. They just didn't know about it.
No.
Because that's what happens. You go behiund their back.
Yeah,
you live two separate lives.
Do you know what?
I don't know.
I hear what you're saying, right? So you want to have you want to give your children some freedom, right?
Yes.
You do want to do that.
When they're of age, yes.
But see, that is discretionary. it's up to parents to decide when they feel it is the right time for the,
There's no way, Karen, no way. When I was 14, that's when I did what I wanted.
Because you're a
But
teenager.
I didn't.
No, you
I
didn't.
literally didn't.
But you didn't.
I waited.
But you wanted to. I'm saying I would not listen.
The
to
thing
them.
is, for my parents, I respected them. And not only that, I didn't want to disappoint them. I actually did what they asked me to do.
I didn't ask them. But I think but I don't know. I just don't know. I think that's just me. I would do what I want to do.
I think some people are
I want
rebellious.
to do.
Yeah.
I'm not hurting them. If it's different, I was hurting them.
Well, the thing is, for me, it felt like I would be. It would. I don't know. I'd be disappointing them, and I didn't want to do that.
So if a boy had come along, you were interested, and you said, "I won't," because Mum says no.
I literally said no.
Because they told you to.
Because they said so,
No,
Sarah.
Can't believe it. Karen.
Sarah.
Not now, you ain't.
Well, I didn't do what they said. I did what I wanted.
Exactly. Yeah.
But within parameters.
Yes. Yeah.
But there is no way I was. The hormones were raging.
Yeah,
I was a
same here.
teen. I enjoyed lots of kisses. I did not have sex under the legal age, just for anybody who's curious. But I enjoyed lots of kisses and flirting and
being a teenager.
Yeah, and being a teenager.
I remember my first boyfriend coming round and sitting in the front room. I kid you not. Parents let him in.
Yeah.
And I was about 17.
With the plastic on the sofa, he had to sit down, did he?
To be fair, we didn't have plastic on the sofa. But, yeah. So yeah, he came and, the front room, the best room.
Right.
And
sat down.
We sat and we just talked. And he was really respectful. He was lovely.
Yeah, that's good.
And
that's nice.
he didn't try anything. We just sat and chatted. And I really, really did wait. I literally didn't do anything.
Wow. But I understand if you wanted to wait because of you, but to wait because of them, I can't get my head around
But
it.
that's the thing. It became me because it was instilled in me. Do you understand? It became one and the same.
No, I don't.
Yeah, because it felt like this was the right thing to do.
What about your hormones, though?
Suppressed.
Wow. So you couldn't even kiss him?
I think I did kiss him. I think I kissed him.
Then you stopped there. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I did stop at the kisses.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my favourite thing, was to tease until people were near death. And then say, I have to go now.
Do you still do that?
If I could, I would. I enjoyed the chase. I was like a bloke. I enjoyed the chase.
Right, yeah.
But I suppose this right, she's saying if when you're an adult and your parent still wants to control you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I let my mum, she would still have me go into church wearing a hat and oh God, kill me now. No,
I can't see you wearing a hat.
Oh, she tried to force the hat on me. It wouldn't work. I don't have a head for hats.
I just can't see you wearing a hat.
And plus, the hairdresser did my hair nice. And
Yeah,
I look good.
Do you know what? No, Ascot Day, I'll fit you into a hat because I can see you in a hat.
No,
I
sir.
don't know what kind of hat. I think if
Little
you're going to have to wear a
fascinator.
hat, you'd have one of those, those kind of...
Like the berets that you tilt to the side.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like a small
That's not what she tried to put me in. It was lace and church hat.
One of those big granny hats.
Yes.
Stuff all the way around like that, in the colour lilac.
I remember the white one. That's when I lost it. Never.
And the thing is, I felt inspired. Like, my mum made me feel like I was so special. It wasn't something you just gave away. Like, you were...
That is true, though. That is true,
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm telling my daughter.
Yeah.
That is true.
That's what I'm saying.
But I guess hormones just rage so hard that anything that Mum says has flown out the window long time. Because Johnny's next year.
Exactly.
Johnny or Mum. You know, I'll say Johnny. It was out of control. I think at that age, I feel like my hormones controlled me. Not now, but then I just felt they controlled me. It's crazy, isn't it?
I can see that. I can see that. I can see that.
Definitely.
Right, so our next letter.
So we are going to be coming up to an ad break fairly soon, ladies. Just remind the listeners, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Beautifully Melanated podcast live on Lightning Radio 90.8 FM or lightningradio.net. We have a telephone number now for you to contact us, and you can find that number on our Instagram page at Beautifully Melanated Podcast. So let's start with our third lesson and see where we get to before the ad break.
I would classify the relationship with my maternal parent as toxic, combative, and peppered with years of inadequacy. I have no memory of my mother being warm and loving. My childhood was littered with incidents of being told I shouldn't have been born and that I ruined her life.
Jesus.
That I was dunce, ungrateful, a liar, a flirt, and ultimately a homewrecker. It was as if the moment she saw me after birth, she disliked me. This treatment was reserved for me, as I have two brothers who she loved dearly and spoiled rotten. Years of therapy have led me to the realization that it wasn't anything I had done, but as a child and a young woman, my heart was broken constantly, and my ability to have meaningful relationships with others was hampered. This is to an extent, she goes on to say, I don't love or like my mother, which is weird, and I worry about it at times, but can't switch it on. My father was essentially a sperm donor for all intents and purposes, though my parents had a very complicated and involved relationship that bore two children. I am the only girl for both. When my brother was born, they broke up and he went on to marry the lady who lived behind my grandparents. She, according to my mum, forced him to break all contact with us.
Okay.
Whether this is true or not, I don't know. I knew who he was as a child, but we didn't interact. The first conversation I had with him was when I was 10 and passed the entrance exam to go to high school. It was a big deal in the community at the time, so he made sure everyone, including me, knew that I was his daughter. He tried a couple of years ago to make contact with me, to start a relationship, but I had no energy for that. His brand of fatherhood can be left where it originated, in the past. That's heavy. Do you know, it's the first thing I read that struck me was she says, I would classify the relationship with my maternal parent. She didn't even say mother.
Not even mother.
Yeah, I thought that, as toxic. And I wonder what was going on for mum at the time. I know that she had other children, but I do wonder where mum's emotional well-being, what state that was in, and her mental health, and whether there was any sort of postnatal or...
Well, we have a clue because she said mum could love her brothers, but not her.
But not her. Yeah,
so consider that parent and child, mother and daughter are born together.
Yeah.
Something about having a daughter, by the sounds of it,
and
made it so that mum couldn't love her daughter because she couldn't love herself.
And correct me if I'm wrong, was dad her dad, and did the boys have a different father then? I got
one of the, from how I read it, one of the boys has the same father.
Okay, and one doesn't. Okay. So I don't know what the relationship was like with dad and that son.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, this is very, very painful.
Yeah.
And she's still obviously, feeling the repercussions of this severed relationship. Sad, really.
Yeah. No memory of mom being warm and loving and being told as a child that I ruined her life. What? You choose to have a child. How is the child ruining your life? You chose to bring that child to term and give birth.
That's right.
That's a choice. How does the child ruin your life?
I wonder if mum felt that she didn't have a choice in that, she became...
I think I've heard a lot of parents say this about their children. Oh, it's too much. You ruined my life. Or people with multiple children. Someone, an old friend of mine, their friend mentioned, oh yeah, I've just had too many kids. It's just ruined my life. Just like, excuse me. Or I've known children in the past to say, so why do you have so many kids?
Exactly.
And the parents
you're already not managing. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not managing, but you're having more children.
Exactly.
The thing is, I think we're talking about people who are able to make sensible choices in their lives, right? And we know for a fact that there are lots of people who are just not able to make those decisions and choices.
That's right.
And so lots of those people, unfortunately, have children that they just can't financially support, emotionally support. They are just emotionally unavailable for those children.
Yeah.
And we know that's a fact because we work with children who have parents.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
We
which
do.
I'm describing. So that's what's really, really difficult. Okay. And I think, so I'm taking it this person was perhaps brought up in the Caribbean. Would that be right? Okay.
Yes.
I think the other thing to mention then is that poverty could have played a part in that. And the lack of sort of mental health support would have played a part in that. So not saying Jamaica doesn't have counsellors, but I would imagine not to the extent that you would have access to in this country, right? So that all these sorts of things plays into it. And I think that's why this podcast and this episode is so important, because we're talking to parents who are struggling, people who have experienced trauma and difficult relationships, so that we can make a difference. Hopefully, people will be able to listen to this and think, actually, with my children, how can I change this? How can I, make it?
Because if you're never told you're loved and you're never shown you're loved either, how the heck are you going to have a loving relationship and know what love is? You will never have one unless you understand you.
Yeah.
Which is hard.
Your father claims you at 10. So you were left from 0 to 10 with a mother who doesn't like you, tells you you've ruined her life, calls you names, and tells you you're a homewrecker.
Yeah.
That abuse is horrendous.
That's horrendous.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that she's able to write that letter now, to be fair.
Yeah.
She's still, she's obviously very strong and she's come through it.
That's right. If you do the work, you can come through it. But imagine if you weren't aware of yourself. This person seems to have self-awareness, which is amazing. Imagine you don't have any self-awareness, you just internalise all of that, things from mum, which she will have to begin with, imagine, before she had self-awareness. How horrific.
And I wonder, sadly, this is not uncommon. I've heard quite a few people from Jamaica. And I can only speak about Jamaica because that's where my contact is, but lots of people who have experienced that. I think slavery possibly plays a part in that. The way in which they were raised would have played a part in that.
And of course, how they themselves were parented. Pain not transformed is transmitted.
Absolutely.
That's what one of my tutors told me. And it's usually transmitted to the most vulnerable around, which is our children. So we are coming up to the ad break now. We will definitely continue this conversation after the ad break. But as we come into the break, just wanted to say, if you are listening and you have a contribution regarding a parental relationship, or you would like to ask a question, please contact us. lightningradio.net has a chat function, or our podcast or Instagram account at Beautifully Melanated Podcast, or our number 07598 160-730. We would love to hear from you.
The number again, Kay?
The number again, 07598 160-730. And of course, as always, our Instagram account is there. You can always drop us a message there or use the chat function on Lightning Radio. We would love to hear from you. So, ladies, as we go into the break, any final thoughts on this letter or anything you want to leave with before we move on after the break?
Not at the moment, Kay. I think there's a lot of food for thought. Definitely a lot of food for thought. Karen?
Absolutely. Yeah, just processing. That was a heavy letter. Looking forward to continuing after we come back.
Welcome back. So hope you've joined us after the break. Hope you've had a refreshment and you're back for round 2. So we ended at the break with a letter regarding a mother-daughter relationship that was really painful, really, really, really hard to hear. And we didn't want to continue discussing without giving enough time to that letter. So ladies, we're back. Where would we like to pick up on? There was so much in that letter. Where would we like to start?
Okay, just to say that you are logged into Beautifully Melanated Podcast on Lightning FM. All right, so I was just saying that it was very moving, that letter. It was moving because she clearly has had a really difficult time, and you form such strong, important attachments, don't you, when you're a child to your caregiver? And if that's absent, that can be so impactful.
Definitely. I think some of the things that were said here, a dunce, a liar, being ungrateful, and a flirt.
A flirt.
That plays into what you were saying, Kay.
Exactly.
And I've heard that a lot of people I've worked with in over my career have had mothers that have kind of almost been jealous of them, as they've become teenagers, especially, and young people, young women. So I do resonate with that.
The flirt.
For people.
I think what I'm struggling with as well is ungrateful. I hear it all the time with parents I work with. They expect their children to be grateful. For what? For you doing the basic as a parent? You chose to have a child. I know, that's Karen, right. You were saying not everybody has choice and agency, but the child is here and it's because of your actions. Your basic job as a parent is to feed, clothe, educate, care, nurture, and love your child. Why should they be grateful?
And tell you what, there's a couple of things I want to say about that. So unfortunately, lots of people, for whatever reason, do not have the emotional capacity to give their children what they need.
Then use protection.
And they don't necessarily know until after the event, right? So they've brought this child into the world. But
they know that they're going to have there's the possibility of having a child through their actions. If they don't know that, then they've got some serious issues.
What I'm saying is they don't realise what that means to be a parent.
Yeah,
because
true.
I remember
Yeah.
giving birth to my firstborn, looking at her lovingly, and she's staring back at me lovingly, and I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this little person is completely reliant on me.
Yeah,
I was her food.
Yes, literally.
Literally.
You keep her alive.
I had to keep her alive.
Newborns, you're like, watch the head, watch the
And honestly,
head.
not to suffocate her in the blanket,
That's
just
right. I've fallen
everything.
asleep. Oh my God, the baby.
Yeah.
Oh, it's alive.
It's
like that, isn't it?
Huge responsibility, right? And I would say lots of people, including myself, have no idea.
I would agree.
What is to come until you're there.
Yeah,
so
I
what
agree
I'm
with that
saying,
bit. I
right?
agree with
So
that
you
one.
get there. Then mum is plighted with poor relationship with dad. She grew up in a place, I'm assuming, where I don't know what her examples of love and relationships were like. I don't know what her parenting was like, how she grew up with her family. So clearly this mum has got lots going on. And the reason why I can say that is because I know lots and lots of people, particularly who were raised in the Caribbean, who had a very, very similar experience.
Yeah.
All right. Unfortunately, back then, I would say, I imagine this person's of a certain age as well. Parents, who was going to tell this woman that actually you need to hug your daughter, tell her that you love her. It's not her fault that you're not getting on with her dad.
Yeah.
But who tells these people these things? Where does
I don't
mum
know.
learn this from? If mum hasn't, I know that she had a different relationship with her sons. But how different was it? The daughter thinks that mum showed more love to them. Is that perception as well? Was mum struggling with everybody actually?
Mom didn't struggle with everyone. Just her daughter.
Just her daughter.
Yeah.
And maybe there was something about her daughter that possibly
reminded her of herself.
Oh, okay.
I
Triggered.
would say reminded mom of herself. That hatred and that inability to connect and bond with a baby, an infant. You're projecting your thoughts, your feelings, your responses onto the baby. That has nothing to do with the baby. It's it's what child development authors will call the ghost in the nursery. Because as soon as you have a baby, your own experience of being a child is evoked.
Definitely.
Sure.
And so if you've had also abuse from your own mother who called you these names, then you will hold your own infant and think, oh, here we go again.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm not excusing mums. But what I'm saying
is a massive mirror to yourself.
it's massive. Because I definitely have taken a lot of the way in which I was parented and brought that into the way in which I now parent.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Same here.
There's some things I've left, as I've said before, but I've kept a lot of it, right? Things that I think were good and worked.
Even from cooking fresh fruit, that
Just
kind of thing, in the
everything,
kitchen,
yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Having a meal, sitting together,
Having
eating.
a meal.
That is,
Yeah.
we do every single day. I can't imagine when some people say, I never sit down ever. I'm in the house alone. No one ever sits. That kind
You
of
wait till she's 14, but anyway.
And then she won't want to eat with you.
thing. Yeah. I'm telling her she's coming downstairs and she's going to eat with me. you know, she is going to eat with me. That is, I'm very hot on that.
I'll hold you to that when she's 14.
She can eat, as long as we're in the same house, she's going to. It's important.
No, I agree.
So important.
Honestly, my daughter was 10 at one point. I I hear.
But
and
I understand,
agree
like,
with
if you're, you know, I understand when they're teenagers, but I think, in a regular basis, you need to sit with your child and
yeah,
eat
absolutely,
something.
absolutely.
Yeah, you know.
I know parents in the Caribbean at times were grappling with poverty too. So poverty and stress and anxiety can also cause misattuned parenting because you're so stressed
100%.
trying to survive.
That's what I'm saying.
What have you got left to
What
give
have
an
you got
infant?
left to give? And then it's all their fault that you are struggling.
Exactly.
This way.
And their dad has left.
And their dad's left.
And married the person next behind the grandparents. And
goodness,
you
just
know,
to add salt
just
to the wounds.
exactly. And so I get it. But my point is this: at some point, when the child becomes an adult, how has that not stopped? How is this the way you want to carry on for the rest of your life? You're no longer in survival mode. Your child is now an adult.
But I think it's been severed, hasn't it? Because now how do you repair that damage and how do you bridge that gap and how do you start to have those conversations that were too painful that you never had years ago? For example, okay, we live in a particular area, don't we? And when I think of my local high street, I have heard many, many mothers shouting, "Oi, get here."
Yeah, so have I.
And that's hardly awful, but you know, as you can imagine, they go on to say other things, don't they, right?
Yes. That's the edited version.
The edited version. Yeah, keeping it clean
The
for
radio
radio.
version.
Absolutely. So you can imagine, right, and this is not the Caribbean. This is not, you know, somewhere where people haven't been educated, for example, or for want of a better phrase, shouldn't know better. You know, this happens now. Where people don't know how to relate to their children. They don't know how to discipline their children in an appropriate manner. I mean, you know, where does this come from? Where, you know, where do they learn? If they haven't had those examples growing up themselves, where do they learn how to do that? And how, you know, how do we break that cycle?
Well, the thing is, they learn how to love a man enough to have relations. I think you can draw from something. Come on. Draw from the depths of your toes. Draw on something. Because if you found it in you to love your sons and spoil them rotten, that means you're capable.
You're capable, yeah. There's something.
This is a choice.
Yeah. Well, this is cruelty then.
This is cruelty and it's a choice. And at some point, now look how the cycle has repeated because she's now said, I don't like her and I don't love her.
Yeah.
Because that's what she got from her mother. I don't like you. I don't love you. And now we've come full circle. But if parents were able to drop their egos, and I think this is where Black parents in particular struggle, they will not drop the ego. They're always right. Even when they're wrong and strong. You can't have a conversation and say, that thing you did hurt me. When you called me a flirt at 10, what the hell? When you told me I ruined your life, that wasn't very nice to hear. What do you think the parent's response is going to be?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, like I always say, right, I do try to be reflective because actually no one's perfect. And when my children hold me accountable for certain things I've said or done, or I try to listen because it's important. Sometimes I'll disagree and I'll say, well, actually, no, I stand by what I've said. I firmly believe this and this is why. And sometimes I'll say, actually, do you know what? You have got a point and I apologize, right? But
Same.
Yeah, I do.
But I'm happy.
Wrong.
Yeah, and I'm happy to do that because I don't feel that that's belittling me. I don't feel like it's beneath me. I don't feel like I think it's a strength.
Mum, you did actually set up God, you know what? You're right, I did.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're totally right. You know, you are so right. That is sorry.
Yeah.
I got it wrong.
But for so many people, that is seen as a weakness. They feel as if it's undermining their authority. They find it really difficult to say. I mean, we've only got to think about relationships, haven't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
when some can't even say sorry.
When some people just can't say sorry.
No, I know too many of those people. Yeah.
And that's what I was saying earlier.
Say no.
Your inability to see your child as an adult is a problem because in adulthood, you could say, I am sorry. That was wrong.
That's right. But they do not.
But they do not.
Nope.
They don't, yeah.
They will dig down and tell you you're lucky they didn't kill you. But you turn out all right, didn't you?
No,
I'm not okay.
totally broke me.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And they find it really. I do know people who are like that, who find it really, really
You've got to
difficult.
stay strong, they'll say. You've got to stay strong. It's
Yeah.
like, you're just puppet or something. What's wrong with you?
Or that
like
they did
no
nothing
emotion.
wrong.
Or they did nothing wrong.
I didn't do
Yeah.
anything wrong. I raised you.
That's right.
You know,
But you
you're
did,
lucky
though.
that you had food.
Exactly.
And you're thinking, really?
Really?
Was that not my right?
And that's what I mean. Where is this idea of gratitude coming from? Are we still on the plantation?
Yeah.
Why should I be grateful that you did what a
You were
parent should
supposed to
do?
However,
Go on.
food for thought. Okay, so with my youngest, we do have conversations about gratitude because I believe and I feel strongly about this.
So do I.
I go above and beyond. I say to her, I could feed and clothe you. That is the requirement by law that you go to school on time and clothed, that you are fed. Other than that, rest of it's up to me, really. The fact that she's going on a skiing trip, which is costing me, I won't even begin to tell you.
Yeah.
But I think that's different. That's not like that. You need to. I do
be grateful
for that. That stuff. You need to,
Yes.
But she doesn't distinguish the two,
Right.
right? So what she sees as far as she's concerned, that's what a parent does. How would
Okay.
she know what a parent does?
Okay.
So she's saying there's a school trip. Lots of children are going on
Of
it.
course. Yep.
She can't see that actually I have toiled. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
she can't see that this is the fruit of my labor that, I am now sharing with her. She doesn't look at it like that. She just thinks,
She
well,
wouldn't. She's a teenager.
she's a
Yeah,
child.
she's just- yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
Yes,
is
right.
it not my job to teach her that and say, actually, this is a privilege. This is not your right.
Yes.
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
We're going on a ski trip.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Exactly. So these things, that's what I'm saying. But I think so there is something about gratitude. I think children should
yeah.
be grateful.
Yes.
I agree.
They but they don't know how to distinguish what is their right as a
right.
human being and what you're supposed to do
Yeah.
as a mother and what actually it looks like when my parent goes way above and beyond what is an expectation.
But I guess also they're looking also at their friends,
Absolutely.
They are,
100%.
yeah.
I
Of
think
course
when
they
I
are.
went on a ski trip at school, I was aware that it was expensive, but I would still expect. I guess I was almost I still expect.
Why can't I go?
Because everybody went.
That's what I'm
Well,
saying.
actually, I remember when my son was at grammar school and they're stuck up and he came home with a skiing trip letter.
Yeah.
I found the letter and I said, how comes you didn't show it to me? And he was like, why? I know you can't afford it, Mom.
bless him.
What was the point?
What was the point?
He said, to do what? I don't need to learn how to ski. Because we already invested so much in his football
In a
career.
way,
there you
sure,
go. He
sure.
had that
That was
investment. And he
that
was
though.
investment.
But what if you couldn't do that?
What, invest in his football?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's all that cost you a pretty penny, surely.
Oh my God.
Yes, I
Time.
know about this.
Yeah.
That's a
It
lot.
did cost.
Yeah.
But my daughter was the same and she didn't have a career at that point, but she was like, I don't expect that. I want to have a home of love. I want to come home.
But
we're happy.
she
we
did
can
go
eat.
to theatre school.
She did after.
After.
Yeah,
Did she
yeah.
not do lots of stuff when she was younger?
Not a
no,
lot.
she did. Okay, fair
Not a
enough.
lot. No, because
ski
we're always
trip,
at
though.
football. But the ski trip,
that was
none of
amazing.
them expected to go on ski trip.
And do you
The
know?
ski trip was amazing, and it wasn't about skiing.
Yeah.
I love to. I've only been skiing that one time when I was at school, and it was amazing. But it wasn't even about the skiing for me. It was about the whole experience.
It's the
of going on the
experience.
plane, to go into.
Exactly.
We had reindeer. We went to Canada. Went on the
Wow.
sledge and all that sleigh
Imagine.
thing.
Yeah.
We got maple syrup in the snow. Even that was probably totally unhygienic. But it was a tourist, you know what I mean?
That sounds lovely.
It was like maple syrup poured in the
Yeah.
snow with a lollipop stick in, and I've never
wow.
done that since.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
And that's the
it
thing.
was-
That's the thing about school trips. School trips give you an experience. And what
Yeah.
I'm saying is,
was good.
I have never been skiing in my life.
It's
Nor
really cool,
neither
Karen.
do I have
Really
any
cool.
real,
I haven't been either.
any kind of desire to go particularly. It just looks cold. I don't do cold holidays.
Thank you.
It's
I will do
cold,
the
it's so
après
fun.
skiing, which is I sit at the bar and watch people ski.
That's what my auntie does. in
Yes,
Switzerland.
that's
She
how
said,
I
That'd be
do
me.
it.
That'd be me. Yeah.
And they do all the skiing.
Yeah, that'd be me. That's sort of putting on a ski on my foot. No. Anyway, but she wants to go, right? So
Yep.
I just think it's all part of it and it is relative. So if you've got other friends, you go to that type of
Right.
school where people, that's
Everyone
what they do.
swims.
They ski.
Yeah.
I don't want her to not have an opportunity that is afforded to other children, right?
It's like also when they have kids, you know, when you have a day when everybody dresses up.
So, yes.
Yeah,
Oh, I used to
Non-uniform
hate
day.
those.
Those, I mean, my daughter's got a World Book Day coming on. I'm like, for God's sake, you're in year 5. What are you going to do? What are you
I
going to wear?
know,
I said,
I
haven't got
know.
any princess books now. We've given them all to charity, etc.
Yeah.
And she said, oh, Mum, we've got to have something somewhere. And I said, look, we've probably got dresses. So she said, I found a really beautiful dress that she can wear. She said, oh, Mum, but I haven't got the book. I said, oh, never mind. It's one day. I said, just say
do you have to have the book, do you?
She said, she said, but actually, you know what? My friends and I are more interested in dressing up than the book.
Exactly.
Of course they
So
are.
she loves books, but the Cinderella book is just, she said, I can't even find it.
Do you know what? I've actually got a box of
At least you'll
costumes.
look the part. Book.
Yeah, I'll share them with you and see if there's anything. I've got a chest
thank you.
of costumes because you can imagine my eldest is, in her 20s now.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
yeah, and we did all of those. I tell you what,
World Book Days.
that costume shop saw me regularly.
Oh my
because
gosh.
it was just ridiculous because they'd had all these different.
They normally
dress
don't
up
give
days.
it. They normally like for the one about it was kind of a day to talk about where you're from, basically.
Yeah.
It's a whole other conversation.
like traditional.
So
dress-
she'd wear
yeah,
like a flags of Jamaica or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But they told us as parents the night before. So that's
Oh
what
my
just
gosh,
riled us up.
that's awful.
They
You
said,
haven't got enough
and then she
time.
said, "Oh, but I haven't got these. The yellow leggings aren't right, Mum, and
Oh,
kind of
bless.
stuff. So
And
what am
it's
I going to
so
do for the yellow and the
stressful.
flag?" And she went there, like, "Do you actually talk about Jamaica?" Because I said, "You can talk about when you went to Jamaica." She goes, "Mum, they didn't ask." So what's the point?
What
then?
was the point? I used to hate those.
That's where your leggings
I'd be
are
on
jumping
Amazon
up.
the night before.
I know, yes.
Ordering,
Oh my
panic
God.
ordering.
Panic buying.
Complaining. She said, "Mum, are you going to complain to the school yet?" I want to complain. That we're told the night before.
But what? No, but that's wrong. They should have. That would have went out in parent mail, surely.
Some people turned up in trainers and jeans. Is what you're representing there.
Well, that's
Some
big.
people-
Well, if you're English, yeah. What else are they going to wear?
But some of her friends, Ken, the black friends, they came in just like normal school uniform.
Yeah.
So they
Do
didn't
them
want
right.
it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Some children would not be able to go home and say, "Actually, Mum, can I?" Like parents haven't always got time for that.
Well, she said, "Can you just get me a book just for the day?" I said, "No." I said, "I don't need to get. You have thousands of books, literally, in you have bookshelves and bookshelves, and you've got a princess dress. Just say you've
wear
forgotten the
that,
book.
yeah.
You're year 5. Almost year 6. Like I said, when we go in to find World Book Day costumes, they don't even go up as your size anyway.
I know it is
Like,
ridiculous.
you've got a dress, it fits. You're happy with
you're
it.
happy.
Wear it, roll on,
Yeah.
because you've got something else next for the following week.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And I think for all our children, they will remember how they were loved. Even if they had all of that, all the
it's
ski
true.
trips and the goodies.
It's true.
If we don't love them, that's what they're going to remember.
Oh, listen, that goes without saying. Look, love is really important. But again, how do we show our children love? That's another thing.
But I
right?
think even by your actions, I mean, this afternoon I took my daughter to the swimming pool. We do it on a Sunday now. In my gym, you can swim with your children on Sunday.
That's nice.
Part of the membership, which has been a godsend for me. So every Sunday we go to the gym and we swim. And just playing in the water and her riding on my back and stuff and saying, "Mummy." I know she's young, but those memories of kissing Mummy and riding through the water and stuff like that. Swimming, and we do handstands, and she shows me, and each week she improves on our handstands. Stuff like I just feel like
it's time, isn't it? It's your time.
and she loves it and I love it, and it's that's one way
Yeah.
that we connect. So
Absolutely.
whatever happens in the week, we know we have swimming time together.
Yeah.
But you'll be surprised how many parents don't make that kind of time. So a lot of
Yes,
work
true.
I do with parents, one of the suggestions when there's a really severed or difficult relationship between parent and child is, we call it parent attending, but it's literally spending, I don't know, a few minutes, but it's every day. It has to be consistent. It's
Yeah,
every
of
day.
course.
On a child-led activity. And I do say child-led because often a parent will say, "Oh, I know, we can do homework
whatever.
together.
Yeah, or teach you how to make your bed.
Or I teach her to make your bed." Things like that. Oh, but
Right,
we
okay.
do spend time together because, I should not do the washing up. No, they're chores.
Exactly.
This is not a child-led, child-initiated activity.
Right.
Something that can bond
Yeah.
That's
the two
what I
of you,
think.
right?
Sitting down, having a meal with your younger child, not some teenager, is so important.
The thing is, I still
Little
want
ones.
to have
Yeah.
meals with my youngest. Not because I don't want to
Yeah.
have them, but I think when they go through teenage years,
Yeah,
adolescence, whatever you call it, it's just slightly different. Spending time with your parent seems to be something that it's as and when she wants to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That sounds appropriate for a teen as
It
well.
does, yeah.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
kind of let her come to me.
That's
Sometimes she'll
it.
talk my ears off. Like, we'll be talking
Yeah.
for hours about what Mr. So-and-so did
Yeah.
in maths that really riled her, and I'll get that for like half an hour.
Yeah.
But so if she sat in the car and I said, "How was school today?" I'm probably going to get, fine, because that's just not the time when she wants to talk. So I
Yeah.
always say to parents, Let them come to you.
I get that now when she's 10.
You see, you've got more to come.
The amount of times when I've recommended this to parents to have half an hour protected with their child every day.
They
Can't do it. Half an hour.
Well, I asked for 15 minutes.
See, okay.
Because I always say, I get it, right? Your time is precious and everybody's really, really busy, but you'll be surprised.
Yeah.
They cannot find 15 minutes. I kid you not. The phone's ringing.
I can't imagine that. I think even that, but I guess my daughter's younger than your children, and even we have a thing since lockdown as well. We've just always, in the evening, whilst we've had dinner together, I appreciate she's young, she's not a teenager, we would watch something together. She goes, Mum, I've found something for us to watch. We watch something on Netflix, really documentary, so we can talk about. Baby animal show we're watching at the moment. She loves cooking shows and decorating houses and all that stuff. We watch it. We talk about it. Yeah. We do it every single night, 7 days a week.
Thank you.
After dinner.
I make the time as well, and my daughter wants to, which is nice.
Which is lovely.
So I used to say to her, she comes in my room at 10 o'clock, oh God.
Yeah.
Because I know it's going to get deep, and we're going to go till midnight.
Yeah.
But I love
that time.
But that's a beautiful connection you have with your
But
daughter.
what would happen if you had a partner who was very volatile and he drank a lot?
And he drank a lot. Okay.
Let's just say, I'm putting it out there, right?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, he drank a lot. Your nerves are frayed because you're walking on eggshells. You don't know when he's going to kick off.
Very true.
Cost of living crisis has meant that actually, you can't make ends meet. You can barely,
that's true.
put a tin of beans on the hob to heat up.
Yeah.
House is cold. You're stressed. You're on anxiety medication, antidepressants. I'm just saying there are so many different scenarios, right? So we are really, really fortunate in that we have good well-being.
But you're right, though, but all of us aren't in a situation with that partner. So I guess, in my experience, it does change the dynamic. And one of the reasons I feel that I'm so close to my daughter is from being a single parent.
Yep.
And having that time with her. And I only have one child, so I can just invest that in her. Had I had a partner, I feel that I don't think I would have invested in that kind of partner. I don't think I'd have invested in her what I have invested in her. Because I'd be too busy worrying about all his crap.
Exactly. You just wouldn't have the mental... So what I'm saying is there's so many different reasons why people haven't been able to parent appropriately, right?
It's true.
We have the benefit of... we're in
choice,
particular
agency, autonomy.
We're also in, we work with children. We get it. We're aware. We are trauma informed.
We wouldn't just
and all
leave
that
our
sort of
child
stuff.
up, never knowing what they're up to. I couldn't imagine.
Well, we're not going to.
Well, first off, I would never choose a man over my child, and I know many women do. They will choose the man over the child. It happens time and again. If a man is abusive, you're not in my house because I will meet your fire with more fire. I'm a fire sign. So if you're bringing nonsense, I can match it.
The thing is, you know what? The thing about that is that that's even complicated, right?
Well, that's why I'm divorced, Karen, because it was getting to that point. When it was fire meeting fire, I was like, okay, we're not doing this.
We're not going to do this in front of the kids,
in front of the kids.
And I get that. But imagine the build up to that. There'll still be times when, he might have been a little bit... I don't know, a bit aggressive or...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
It changes dynamic, doesn't it? Because I know for myself, when I'm at home with my daughter, since being a single parent, it's a different dynamic, isn't it? And then suddenly, if my partner now comes round, it changes the dynamic again and she actually now will get jealous when he comes around. It's got to the point where she's like just sitting down the table, dancing next to the table. It's like, she's trying to sit on my lap and try and kiss my face still, almost at 10. It's like, you're sitting at the table, all eating together.
Yeah.
And one day she said, but you didn't talk to me. It's like I spent half an hour talking to my partner, coming up every other week, but she needs to know that also. And, this is a kind, loving man. Also that, we all talk together. Yeah. Come and sit at the table with us, chat to us.
Yeah.
But she finds that hard because it's just always me and her.
Yeah. It's hard.
So, she'll try and smother me.
Inviting somebody else in, because she's losing a bit of you.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's hard.
It's difficult.
It's very hard. You're right, Karen.
Yeah.
But they also need to know that sometimes, like, if she was down here with us now, she'd probably be like, oh, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? She wants attention.
Yeah. And if I had 5 children, of course, it would be different. But then that's why I chose not to have more than 2 children. I chose.
I did. I planned my children.
Yes,
both my children... were planned and you know. But I imagine for some people,
You have 5.
they've not been able to do that for whatever reason.
It's just
Maybe.
hard. There was a lady on Instagram I saw. She has 8, and she's a single mum.
For the love of God.
She was, and she was saying her mental health is suffering. And that's
Would it not?
Yeah,
You're running a nursery at this point.
no, that's what she was taught. That was her whole page. About her whole page.
Fantasy here. I'm going to have 8 kids and it's going to be great, like Little House on the Prairie.
Was she with a
she's-
partner? And
Was she single now?
No, she's not.
But and were all the
Children.
children from the same father?
No, she's 2 separate fathers of both had mental health issues. I'm happy to state this because she stated it on social media.
Yeah.
You know, both her partners had mental health issues, she said, and both the partners were volatile and both the partners left her.
So she had 4 children with one.
I don't know how many she's 2 baby fathers. There's 2 exes to the children's fathers.
And she
I
has
don't know
8
how
children.
many-
So,
she has 8
so we don't
children
know.
across
It's
the
not
board.
necessarily 4. It could be like
Yeah.
5 and 3. Okay.
But then also the way she presents herself on social media is very much like, you know that kind of, I hate all this stuff, but kind of like, you can't, you bad luck that, it's all your problem that you've left. Look at someone hot like me, 8 children still looking this
That's
good.
what she's on Instagram talking about?
Still looking
How
this
hot
good.
she looks? Not about how she's going to emotionally meet the needs of 8 children
It's
with
not.
volatile fathers.
And as a baby. A very, very young
I give
baby.
up.
But that's probably
my
to
God.
do with her self-esteem, right? So I think that's...
I think after she said my
that's-
mental health is terrible, this is why I'm making this page. So I'm not surprised because I didn't say it, but I felt like it. I'm not surprised because after 8, I would be, honestly, with 8 children, I'd be struggling to put one foot in front
I
of the
would
other.
need to be medicated.
Yeah, I would.
8 children.
8.
That's 8 breakfast, lunch, and dinner every
She
day.
serves everything in Tupperware and plastic plates. And she shows it again. Everything's on plastic plates, Tupperware, and throwaway cutlery. That's how she lives.
It's probably so much more expensive, but I guess it saves time.
I'm trying not to
It does,
judge.
but all her children, I guess, with being a counsellor, everything, I look into it. I thought this was interesting.
The
Kate.
thing is,
all
though-
her children are kind of wanting her attention.
Well, they
but she can't
would.
because she's busy vlogging and putting another wig on.
The thing is, but do you know what I think that is about? That's about her trying to find her self-worth and herself in all of this.
Yeah.
So she's now left with 8 children
Yep.
on her own.
That's
And
right.
I guess what she's saying is, but look at me. I am doing it. I'm keeping it together. I'm looking
But you're
hard.
not. You're doing it badly.
But she does it.
She
And then
might be
she'll
doing it badly,
Then she'll
but
say,
for
I'm
her-
struggling. I can't cope. And then it'll be like, a few days.
See, this is where I mean
Yeah.
about the choice. I don't see how, after the first volatile partner, you pick
Yeah.
up another volatile partner. You can see patterns
I
repeating.
think after
Okay?
about 4 children, you're going to start thinking,
Exactly.
keep on having them and having them and having them.
Who's
It
going to
makes
look
me-
after? Who's going to raise them?
It makes me question her own
One
mental
person.
health, though.
yeah.
One
you know?
person can't. I think then she moved. She moved from somewhere with it. She was given a massive house, as you would be with that many children, on the council. And then she suddenly said no. She was moving, and she moved to a place in London. She was living outside London, and then she would move back into London, into this tiny little 3-bed, and all the kids had to squash into these 2 tiny bedrooms. She had the biggest room, and they were all in these bunk beds up the walls. And the reason I followed her is because she actually had a podcast, and it was actually quite interesting. It was about mental health. And I thought, okay, let me follow her. She's on YouTube and Instagram and all that jazz. But she, when you just don't delete people, because I think you just don't think about it, do you? Unfollowing them because she wasn't really saying anything. And then she'll come back again and saying, oh, it's hard for me. My mental health is bad. Then she's back again. She's pregnant. It's just like, I'm thinking, this is a mess. And why would you move from a big house where all your children are happy, uproot them, put them back into London and put bunk beds almost up the walls? It's just like, that says to me a lot about her mental health.
Well, I think it does. I think it really does. The other thing I'd like to talk about as well is families who don't understand or accept mental health.
Oh, yes.
And
I think
therefore,
it
when
exists.
that it exists, or they explain it by way of witchcraft,
Oh, yeah.
and evil spirits, and therefore their children's mental health goes unsupported. And yeah, I've actually witnessed a few families where that's happened. And I just think that's really worth putting out there because
When you say which, so they're saying somebody obia their child. That's why their child
Yes.
is
And
having
there's-
mental health issues.
yeah,
Oh.
that's how they would explain the presentations.
Oh.
Right.
Not because of anything they've done.
Of course not.
No.
Right. And you see, this is the issue I have. It is the issue I have. I don't even know if they're religious, but this is the issue I have with Christianity and religion. Everything good comes from God. Everything bad comes from the devil. Guess who doesn't have to take accountability?
Parents.
Exactly. Because you're going to attribute everything to God that's good. Everything that's bad is Satan. So at what point do you take accountability for your choices and your decisions? Even so much as to expose your child to hexes and witchcraft and obeah. What were you doing?
But what if that's what they know though? Imagine if that's
You're
their
brought up
culture.
like- yeah,
They're brought
yes,
up like
yeah.
it. That is their culture. That's what they know. That's how things have been
were brought
explained
up.
to them. Yeah. How do they separate that? What is this mental health? What is that?
I guess if we're talking about living somewhere remote, I think then I understand. You know, if you were living in a remote village somewhere in the world and you don't know it past what the village elder says, then that's one thing. But I feel like in most society, you're going to surely have some idea.
You'll be
of what
surprised,
would be
Sarah. Because I think what happens is no matter where they live, they bring
Right.
that village mentality
Right,
to
okay, I see.
the
But
big
without
city.
the village, and that's so worrying.
Yeah.
Because if you are in a village, yes, you would have the support. You would also have the whole network and the whole understanding, the same principles, the same way of approaching the world.
Even then, though, there was a documentary about that where there was a whole village and they accused a child of being a witch. I don't know if it was
Yeah,
I think I
heard
about
of.
it, but I
Yeah.
didn't see it.
yeah.
Now, that is in the village. That was equally, if not more traumatizing for that child because there was nowhere to go.
No, that's
Right?
terrible.
It's terrible. But what I'm saying is that mentality still, sort of been transported to here. They've still got those sort of belief systems, those same thoughts, those same, thought processes. And where, mental health has such a stigma attached to it, their children are still unsupported. The good thing is that they go to a school where the school can step in, right? And
Yeah.
do something about it. And obviously there are other healthcare professionals. But that child still has to go home.
True.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's quite common, actually. It's not a one-off.
Wow.
No, definitely not one off, no.
I've not come across it in my work, but I haven't been in schools for years now. That's quite frightening. I don't know how you make contact with the parents, i.e., not
With great difficulty.
Yeah, exactly.
Very
Then you'd
difficult.
be a witch too, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Sorceress. Or that's not the right word, but
Yeah.
you would be. Wouldn't you? Oh, maybe it is the right word. Yeah.
The school.
Because
yeah.
the way your job would be
Yeah.
absolute
Yeah,
devil's work there.
Absolutely. It's really difficult. And, I work really, really hard to engage parents. That's a really large chunk of my work. And it's difficult. And I just think as a community, we have to help raise awareness.
That's right.
And the churches have to take some accountability.
Oh, yes, please.
Oh, gosh, yes.
They need
They
to.
do.
Because I don't think it's okay that people attend the church. They look for guidance and support and
Yes.
comfort and all those things. And you tell them a load of
Crap.
swazzle.
Yeah.
That's not
Absolute
okay.
rubbish.
It is not okay.
And the children suffer
And
all
the children
the time.
suffer. Yeah.
Evil, actual evil, toxic. If you're,
Sometimes
if you're
it can be.
preaching that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, that's evil.
And the thing is, with some of the churches, they're not even regulated.
Yeah.
I don't think any
Because-
of them are they?
Well, I mean, like Church of England isn't it?
Oh,
Because
well,
it's
yeah.
like run by the government, blah, blah, blah.
And has the most pedophiles, so I'm not sure how regulated.
Well, that's Catholicism, isn't it? That tends
And
to
the
have
Church
more.
of England. Ooh.
But at least they can marry. It's the Catholics
Yeah.
that can't marry, and therefore they're suppressing something that's completely natural.
But they don't go and have affairs with women, they rape children. Those are pedophiles.
Oh, yeah. Anyone who does, I mean, that is paedophilia and that is abhorrent. But what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
it happens a lot. Well, I thought it was disproportionately higher with the.
Probably
Catholic
disproportionately
Church.
high
Yeah,
in
Catholic
the
Church.
Catholicism, but the Anglican
It
Church
happens,
has its
it
own share.
happens, yeah. Okay, fair
Jehovah's
enough.
Witness.
Oh, really?
Like yes.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I know
I've not
quite a
heard.
bit about that.
Seventh Adventist too.
I think it's just everywhere, isn't it? Let's just say
Where else is a pedophile going to have easy access to children?
Yeah, school,
Church.
People hiding behind religion and also people that are vulnerable, aren't they? Going to church.
Yeah.
Some people quite vulnerable.
Yeah,
Looking
I'd
for
agree.
answers, looking for comfort.
I have
Yeah.
never met more
Here are my
disordered
children,
people
Anna.
than in church. Seriously.
Some interesting people in church.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing. We've done, listeners, we've actually done a podcast about church.
We have.
We should revisit that. That's a good one.
So if you're just tuning in, you are listening to Beautifully Melanated podcast live on Lightning Radio. We would love to hear from you. Visit our Instagram page, and our telephone number, Karen's going to read out for us,
is 07598 160 730. And this is a very, I don't know. This topic is quite controversial, I suppose, because we are talking about religion, and I imagine there are lots of listeners who do go to church. So if you'd like to share your thoughts, please do. This is not about bashing any particular religion or, any particular denomination of church. We are in the business of just exploring ideas. All right. So please do share your thoughts. Like I say, the number is 07598 160 730.
Okay, thank you, Karen. I am only bashing the religion I grew up in, no other one. So we're going to try and get through one more letter for this week. I'll start reading. Female voice. I was raised by my mother and grandmother. I wouldn't say I have a bad relationship with my father, but it's not very father-daughter-like, if that makes sense. I lived a stone throw from him, and he wasn't present in my life. I'd see him occasionally, and that was about it. My mother worked out of town, so my grandmother raised me from I was around 2 years old to 8. My mom would come, visit me, and also took care of me financially. I am the second out of 4 kids for my father and the only one for my mum. My older sister does not communicate with him for the reason I mentioned above, his lack of involvement. However, I'm different. I do communicate with him and do what I can for him when I can. I'm of the mindset that I'm not worse off in my life now, so I won't hold a grudge against him. He is who he is, and it is what it is. I am very grateful for my mom and grandmother. They played a major role in me being the person I am today.
Wow.
Oh, I think I skipped a letter. Oopsie.
That's all right.
It's okay. We can go back to that one.
We can go back to that one. Yeah. So another setup where father is absent.
Lives a stone throw away from him, and he wasn't present in my life. That must have been quite an interesting dynamic. I've heard about that a lot as well.
That's quite common.
Yes, I have.
I don't know how they do it. I literally do not know how men do it.
And I know families here. There's a lady that lives really close to me, and she said, the dad lives 2 streets along.
Right.
It has nothing to do with his
And
kids.
has nothing to do with his children.
How's that
kid
even
you
possible?
not. I was like, do you not see him down the corridor?
Yeah. Mind you, there's people that said they do see them, and the dad will just ignore them. It's just horrible.
Bizarre, isn't it?
That is so bizarre.
Yeah.
And so raised by the women of the family, mother and grandmother, that I think is quite solid in our community, where we're almost matriarchal in a sense because we've had to be.
But is that not also kind of limiting in the sense that they don't have a male figure, a positive male figure
it is limiting.
in their lives?
Yes.
Is that not important too?
I would say so, yeah.
Also, this has made me think.
Boys.
And something else I'd like to discuss on an episode is absent fathers. So there might be men out there in the community listening to this thinking, you know what, I would love to have a better relationship with my kids. I can't because please share your thoughts. What is it? Why have you not been able to maintain a relationship with your children? Was it the mother?
Yeah, I have seen
heard
a lot. Yeah,
That's all I've heard. It's just the mother. And I want to say to that, you're a disgrace. Grow up. Because the mother is the mother, your child is your child.
But you'd be surprised. A lot of men will say, I tried, she made it very difficult. This
Then
is what I
fight.
did.
Some have.
Then fight. You
Some
have a
people
legal
say-
system here that you can go through the courts to get
But
access.
it's not free. Okay, it's not free.
You
know?
can get legal aid.
Depends if you own 2 properties or whatever.
Because
if you
family
can't.
court is different. I've been in family court. It's different to regular court. It's very small. You're sitting it's like you're on a big table. There's a judge. There's the solicitors on either side. You can represent yourself. If you're going for custody, you can also get help from CAFCAS and you can get help from Citizens Advice.
Depends on is it not means tested?
No.
Because I know someone who paid a fortune, a small fortune, to try and have access to his child, right? And they paid it because they could. But I think about all those other people who couldn't. So actually, I think this would be a really, really interesting episode because then you could perhaps shed light on some of that.
Yeah.
And help
There are
people
agencies who can help you.
Okay, well, that's really good. And if you don't know, that
That's
could
true.
be.
If you don't know,
that can be a barrier.
And
Yeah.
I think also it's quite difficult when I spoke to only very few men about this, but that have had a really difficult situation with the child's mother, when a child's mother actually has actually physically been abusive, and been verbally aggressive, and actually physically tried to stop the child seeing their father. So there's
that as well.
There are
and then
arguments,
where,
constant
Absolutely,
arguments. And yes, the child gets to see the father in the end, but then there's a constant war between mum and dad.
Yes.
Which that's not healthy, is it?
No.
And also, I think it's difficult sometimes for us to reserve our opinions for ourselves, right? I know lots of women who find it really difficult not to say what dad is at.
I think that's just
So
toxic
true,
as
and
hell.
that's so toxic and
People
so
do
wrong.
it. People
Cannot
do
say
it.
it, whatever
People
you think
do
of
it.
it,
Whatever,
think of
but
it.
people, even inadvertently, right? Sometimes we say things, and we're not intending really for the child to hear certain things. You might be on the phone, you could be talking to her, and you have a right to sort of trash
If
dad
I'm
if you
saying
want to.
something, I will be shutting myself 3 rooms down.
But do you know what I mean, though? Sometimes you might just be on the phone. Oh my goodness, Nai's behind me. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
Oh yeah. She has heard a few, not about dad, but she is nosy.
yeah, exactly.
She has heard a few things,
Yeah.
and she'll repeat back to me.
Yeah.
that I've said.
Yeah. So it's what I'm saying. It's tricky, right? So I'm not going to condemn all men just yet. We will give them an opportunity to voice their opinions. But I have to say, often it's because the man hasn't tried hard enough.
I have met a couple, 2 or 3, and they are Jamaican men who say, the mother and I don't get on, so when they're 18, they can come and find me.
And why would they?
Thank you.
Why don't do that?
And then I'm going to tell them about their mother and why we didn't get on. Right. So you're going to tell them about the parent who stayed and cared for them till 18.
Exactly.
How do you think that's going to go
That's
down?
going to go down, yeah.
But they fully expect that at 18 they can rock up.
They can rock up and be like...
And be in the child's life, even if they've paid child support or not. It's the mother's fault.
All right.
And so, because the mother and I don't get on, she can raise you. I'll see you at 18.
That's right.
Absolutely ridiculous.
I really would like to hear from some men, so I'll give you the number again. It's 07598 160 730. Please text in with any of your thoughts.
Yeah, text in. And we can also read out some things next week as well.
Yeah.
If people still text in, even when the show's over, because it's important, isn't it? It's important we hear from everybody.
Absolutely.
It's worldwide for you, definitely.
So, Sarah, a final letter for tonight.
Okay. Okay. I was raised by many people, if I'm being honest. I had many homes, people I could turn to. My father was a single dad all my life, as my mum left me when I was 2 to live in the UK, supposedly seeking a better life for me. But it didn't feel that way. My dad remarried, and it was okay for a while, then it wasn't. I had to learn from early how to care for myself in all aspects. I began to look for affection in everyone and anyone who'd show me some, not in a sexual manner, but more of a caretaking type thing. When my mum did return, it wasn't good at all. She blamed me for the life she had and how it had ended up. I'm now 28 with my own child, living with my mum, and the passive-aggressive behaviour still continues. Gnawing at my mental health, putting my child at risk for repeated behaviour of negligence. I recently decided to move on and out to free myself from her negativity and break the cycle of mental abuse.
Wow, that's powerful, that one.
That is really powerful. And I just want to say to this listener, good for you. You have moved out from this toxic relationship with your mother and not letting history repeat itself. So, yeah.
Yeah. And here we go again with the mother blaming the child for how their life has turned out. I swear people should have to do an IQ test before they have children.
If only.
Can you imagine most of where we live wouldn't even exist. It's true,
Definite.
though. It would be.
Definite.
Like bushweed or whatever going
Yeah,
past.
tumbleweed.
Tumbleweed, yeah.
And do a parenting course before you have
Seriously.
children, because
Seriously.
what is this whole you've ruined my life? Again, you've chosen.
Yeah.
You left the child, came to England, left her with her father to seek a better life. So how is it the child's fault that your life isn't better? She wasn't even in it.
She wasn't even in it.
Exactly.
Did she send for this child then?
No.
Oh. See, that's a whole nother podcast in itself, isn't it? People who left the Caribbean, right?
Yeah.
To seek a better life, or not just the Caribbean, anywhere really.
Anywhere.
Come to the UK and other established countries. Did you send for your children? Or did you not? Or I'd probably be speaking to the children, really, wouldn't I? As opposed to the parents. So did your parents send for you? Did they not? How did it affect you? Either way, that would be really interesting if you'd like to call in. Interestingly, this person says that her father was a single dad.
Yeah.
So now we have a single dad where mum was absent.
Yeah.
And I guess it was under the, understanding that mum has gone to better herself and would send for the children, perhaps send for dad, and they'd all live in the UK. But that didn't happen, did it?
No. But yet she somehow found a way to repeat a really toxic cycle of abuse. It's your fault that my life didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, even though I left you at 2. And is now repeating neglect, abuse, passive aggressive behavior. So clearly that's something we specialize in.
Yeah.
What is this passive aggressive behavior towards children? Please stop it.
Yeah.
And I don't know about the sending for your children. So I dated 2 men, not at the same time, and both were left in Jamaica and then sent for. And in both cases, they hated it. It was the worst thing that could have happened to them. They had to break the attachment bond with their caregivers in Jamaica, their grandmothers. And for them, they were coming here to strangers. They know that there's their parents, but they don't know them. They were 12 and 15 at the time. So they've grown up without their parents, and now they're meeting them at the airport, and I'm supposed to know you and love you. No, it didn't happen. They regret it to this day and have had serious attachment disorders
I can imagine.
ever since. So the sending for doesn't really quite work out.
It's really interesting because my mum has siblings who did do that, like they came to the country, got jobs, set themselves up, and then sent for their children, right? Because my mum was one of the youngest, I think she was second to last, of 10. She came to the country when she was I think she was 21. She was quite young, and had myself and my younger sister in this country. And then she raised my dad's children from a previous marriage in this country as well. So that didn't happen to me. I didn't experience that. But I do know a lot of people who did come and join their parents.
Who had children here as well.
Yeah.
So then you had the sibling who was left in Jamaica coming here to meet the sibling who was born here.
Yeah.
And it was a fight for a turf. It's like, I don't know you. They tell me we're related, but...
I think in my family, there have been successes.
Yeah.
In as much as they've been able to kind of, integrate and kind of, blend. But I also hear of other people where not so much. That wasn't necessarily their experience. And it was a bit more difficult. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to hear
Difficult,
any
isn't it?
thoughts on that. Yeah.
When I was a youth worker in London, I worked with quite a few families that there were women that had children here, but they didn't send for their children in Jamaica.
Right.
And they were very, when I talked to the group of women, they were very detached from their children in Jamaica. They just focused on the children they had here.
Wow.
So I don't know. I mean,
That's
what
hard,
do
isn't
with
it?
That? Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know people here who have got children still in Jamaica who haven't been able to send for them for whatever reason.
Now the children are probably 20 something.
Oh, yeah.
Their own families.
But the people I'm thinking of have kept contact with the children. They've, one has been able to go back to visit because they had citizenship. The other person wasn't able to do that because they didn't have citizenship.
Oh, right.
So they would speak
Uh-huh.
on the phone, but they physically hadn't seen each other for I don't know how many years.
Wow.
Yeah. And that person had children in this country. So I think that must be difficult if you're the child that is not here.
Isn't sent for.
Yeah.
What does that tell you? You know?
I know.
They've gone, they've had other children, and you're going to get sent for anytime soon.
Yeah.
It's hard though, isn't it? Because when I spoke to this person, they did say, look, it's not for the lack of trying.
Okay.
I guess the criteria changed for them to send. And once you get to 18, you can't send for them anyway, because then they become adults.
Yeah. Yeah.
So lots of complexities, but painful nonetheless, I'm sure.
Very, very painful. So much
Left
attachment, rupture. Shout out to the single dads, by the way.
Massive
Yeah.
shout out
Yeah.
to single dads. Massive respect
Absolutely.
for the single dads doing their
Absolutely.
thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting? We go, shout out single dad. You know, I too agree with that. Shout out single dads. But I just think it's interesting we say that because single mums do it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we, you know, that's just standard.
That's a whole
isn't
other
it?
conversation.
That's a whole other thing, isn't it?
Something on Instagram about it was a dad talking to his son, and his son lives with his mum, and he was saying, you know, how would it be for you, Dad, if I lived with you? You wouldn't be able to go to the gym. I'm telling you that now.
Yeah.
If I was
Yeah.
small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, oh, what do you mean? Oh, you wouldn't be able to go to the gym. You couldn't go and just meet your friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to return straight home with me and look after me as soon as you get home from work.
Yeah. Well, you
Pick me
would.
up from the nursery, all that kind of stuff.
That's
Yeah.
true.
How would you be for you? And
Yeah.
the guy at the podcast said, you know, actually, you're right. It would be actually challenging for me.
It would
Yeah.
It'll be hard for me.
Yeah.
He said. And when I took my son when he was younger for like a week or something, he said it was challenging. It was hard.
Right.
be. Really difficult.
And
I
let's
was
throw
tied
the
up.
other spanner in the works, which is the economic side of it. Because if you're the parent doing the caregiving, you can't work in the same way that the parent who doesn't live with you do. So they can work 20 hours a day if they want
See?
to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't.
No.
So economically, they are also better off.
Absolutely.
And sometimes do rock up with the money and wield it about as power and control, but very little else to add to their child's life.
And then you have some situations where it does work. So that people, I mean, I have a friend who co-parents 1 week with mum, 1 week with dad. So yeah, there's lots and lots of different scenarios, right?
Yeah.
So this is it for us this week.
Yes. We will finish the letters next week. We didn't get through all of them today. Thank you for sending them in. Please keep sending them in. It's lovely to hear from you. Karen, Sarah, would you take us through to our contact details? How can the listeners reach us in the week?
So you can text us on our phone of 07598 160 730. You can go to our Instagram page, which is Beautifully Melanated Podcast. We also have a YouTube that's Beautifully Melanated Podcast, but you can obviously contact us on Insta. Send us a DM on Insta. Follow our page. Text the number. You know, we really love hearing from you. Really love hearing from you. We're very excited to be here on Lightning Radio. Any final thoughts at all, ladies, for tonight?
Yes, love your children. Spend good time with them. What you do doesn't count as much as the time you have with them. So just go out and love hard on your children.
Quality time, lots of communication, lots of kisses, hugs, cuddles.
Yeah.
Love your children.
That's it. Make sure your children know they're loved. Communicate with your children. If you've got teenagers, just find some time. If it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just to check in with them. And I think I've said before, another podcast, as long as they know you're there for them, that's what's important.
Yeah.
They will come to you.
Yeah.
They will come to you. as they get
And
older.
time is one of the greatest gifts you can invest in your
Absolutely.
children, actually. Your
Definitely.
time.
And drop the ego. Apologize if you need to. You can be wrong sometimes.
Absolutely. No
Yeah.
shame in that.
That's right. All right. So see you next week, same time, between 8 to 10 p.m. here on Lightning Radio. Thank you for joining us. Can't wait to see you again. Bye for now.
Bye for now. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Beautifully.